We're back, everybody. 2 times in a row. Who would have thought?
I know. We're actually getting good at this again. For all the people who stopped listening to us, like, these guys suck. So inconsistent. You're not wrong. We have another week where we had 2 beers because Cleet actually bought a beer this week, and I brought one.
Pitch in whenever I can.
But New Horizons Hazy IPA from Project X. It says a beer and art endeavor. The can is quite interesting. It's got a big old American eagle on it.
America.
With a flag on its beak, but it also looks like an astronaut on Mars. Not sure of the...
most patriotic beer ever.
I guess. I don't know what the astronaut on Mars has to do with it.
America.
So I have a question for you, Cleet. Sure. I pull up to your driveway, right? As I do every week. And I get out of my car and I trip on something. I look down and there's a fucking dumbbell on your driveway. Do you want to tell me why there's dumbbells? Are you just out there pumping iron in the middle of winter?
I don't know where those came from, man.
Those aren't yours?
I think they might be Christine's. I don't know, though.
Your wife's out there pumping iron in the middle of the day.
So angry. So bad.
It's just not very often. You get out of your car and you stumble on a dumbbell.
I'll tell you something. So after Christmas, we were driving back home. We got to my house and... you know, everything's fine. Go to bed. Next day, get up. I go look at my wife's car, and it is flat as flat can be, like rim on cement, right?
Oh, shit.
So it's not a problem. You know, I'll just switch it out with a spare tire. Not a big deal. Go to her trunk. No spare tire. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Shit.
Like, who doesn't have a spare tire? So I'm like, it's the day after Christmas.
Now
I'm
it's a
calling
problem.
all these places that are open. Most of them are closed. And no one has spare tires. Like, I called, like... no one had it in stock. I called 5 tire shops. They all just said no. I didn't know if they were just fucking with me. I'm like, that's weird.
There's some serial tire slasher.
So maybe, but I call my tenant that's downstairs because she had a similar make and model, and I was looking online, and her spare tire would match, you know, Christine's. So I call her and I'm like, hey, you know, can I just borrow your spare for maybe a couple hours? Take it to the tire shop. She's like, I don't have one. And I'm like, who the fuck? Like, what? What are the odds of 2 women I know not having a spare tire in their truck? Do they just not plan for emergencies? Like, we've taken that car on road trips. What if we got a flat then?
You'd be fucked.
Like, I've never been able to, to get my head across that. Like, why would you drive without a spare?
You know what's funny? I don't have one either.
What the fuck's the matter with you
But
people?
my car is a 2007 I bought used. So
it's not a big, you just buy it online. It was $150. I got one today. We swapped it out. It's good to go.
Yeah. So what's your problem?
So tonight we are going to be doing another viewer submission.
Back to back.
Yeah, right. Pretty cool. They put it on YouTube, and it was creepy stories from Indian reservations.
And kind of tie in, I think same person, maybe someone else wanted to do Skinwalker stuff.
Different name, but yeah, kind of ties together.
So it's I think we're doing it back to back because last week we talked about cannibalism, which the Wendigo was tied into that too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a runoff from last week too, but we have several viewer submissions that have come in that we haven't gotten to yet. So if you have put it in there, trust me, it's on the list. We're just going down the list as we can. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about Skinwalkers.
Fasten your seatbelt. Let's jump in.
All right, so this story is called Yendalushi is watching me. The fuck is Yendalushi?
Sounds like some weird Italian.
Cleet. Cleet is on the look. What is a Yendalushi? In Navajo mythology, Skinwalker, known as Yendalushi, sometimes spelled Yendalushi, are witches who wear coyote skins and travel at night. That's fucking creepy.
Yeah, they appear
naked. Oh, I'm in.
Look at that picture, though. That's creepy.
That is creepy.
I feel like I've seen that in a movie, too. Like, that specific thing. Where have I seen that picture?
That is creepy. Like the eyes popping up over the fur.
Where have I seen that? Yeah. Anyways.
All right, so the Yendalushi is watching me. My grandmother, on my mother's side, has always been very superstitious. For lack of a better word, she's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo, and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana, and she grew up in Nevada. One year, when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful, typically boring old people stuff, except she always kept her curtains drawn shut and would always peek out the window when someone asked what she was doing. She would simply reply, Yendalushi is watching me. That's actually a little terrifying.
It is.
You're like,
creepy,
Grandma,
but
why do you keep looking out the window?
it's kind of funny at the same time.
It's like, damn Yendalushi. I don't know. Something's going on.
So
Especially if, like, her house was surrounded by, like, woods.
He likes to watch, huh?
That was the last time I ever went to Grandma's house. This went on for nearly the entire visit, till a few days before we were due to leave. My grandmother and my then baby brother, he's 19 now, LOL, were in the front yard that evening planting flowers, when all of a sudden my grandmother starts shouting, "Get away from that creature! It's not safe!" Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake, so we all run outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother, shaking in terror against the side of the house. Standing out in the yard was a large, black, Great Dane-sized dog, just staring at my grandmother with an intensity I had never seen before.
That's creepy.
It looked up at us, gave a little huff, and bounded off.
The Skinwalker Ranch vibes there.
I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, "The Andalusias found me." She moved a couple weeks after that.
Reminds me of that, like, STD, like, horror movie. What is that called?
Oh, shit, that's a good one.
Like, he found me.
It follows.
I gotta move.
It follows. That scene where that big fucker comes out of the doorway was terrifying.
Never seen it, but
You've never seen it?
I just know the premise.
Oh, dude, you need to watch it. It's such a good movie. For for literally like an STD that follows you as a horror movie, it's done very well. This story is called On the Res, Alone at Night. My uncle and my cousin saw a large deer on the side of the road. When they got closer, it hopped over the fence like a bipedal man. That's quite the deer. One time, driving back from Gallup, my dad saw an old Navajo woman walking on the side of the road, and when he slowed to offer her a ride, she took off into the plains, quickly, with inhuman speed. Once, when I was a kid, my family was at my aunt's house, which is in a rural, secluded area, when we were toyed with by a few entities. They would make animal noises, and when we looked to the direction from which the noises were coming from, they would turn a flashlight on and off. The noises would come from all directions in increasingly shorter succession. Usually when I'm there, on the reservation visiting, alone, late at night, I will feel the presence of evil and dread. Panic and paranoia will wash over me, and as sudden as it comes, it will leave.
Pretty creepy
I
stuff.
don't know if I'd be there alone that night. This one's called It Had a Dog's Body, but with human hands and feet.
Ooh.
It's disgusting. I would not adopt that dog. I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandma's house. It was August, and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15. I, being the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old. We stayed up telling scary stories often, but one night, a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in the backyard, it's thick forest with man-made paths through it. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement was actually underground. That isn't important until later, though. So, we're towards the east side of her yard, in a smallish patch of open land. You couldn't see the neighboring yards from there, and there was probably 3/4 of a mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandma. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing Truth or Dare after telling scary stories. My 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared, rather level-headed, but my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet, and we could see enough to not die. It's important. We're walking through the paths for about 5 minutes and could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large dog-like creature, hunched over with its front hands an inch from the ground. What I remember most was how its eyes were so fucking bright white, and it was a humanoid dog shaped with a human-like head, but a dog-like body, but human hands and feet.
What the fuck?
I wonder if they were like hairy feet.
I bet that would mean the dog could smoke a cigarette.
Probably. Why is that the first question that comes to your mind?
That's what my brain told me.
Can that dog smoke a cigarette? It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed away the opposite way from us, towards a creek that ran through the yard. Eventually, my cousin and I screamed bloody effing murder, and the other cousins and my grandma ran to us. I don't remember much here because I was really disoriented. I couldn't think properly, but I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought up to the house. The guy just passed out right on the path. All the kids slept in the basement, in a big room with sliding glass doors to the outside, as the room was on the side that wasn't underground. My bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. It's kind of freaky. It's like your bed's up against a big old window.
Yeah.
The house is in Michigan, so it gets slightly chilly even in the end of August. There was a slight breeze, so I put on a jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on anything fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandma. Her dogs, both of them, were dead, ripped completely up. That night we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 a.m. because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite me. On the other side of the room, there was one bunk bed and 2 double beds. The double beds for me and my 14-year-old cousin. Damn. They were being quiet, just staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head toward the window. I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes looking down at me. I screamed fucking loud and it bolted. My grandma called the police after I told her what happened and they found nothing. I went home after that and I have never been there during the night again.
Rough.
Yeah, and I would never fucking sleep there again. Are you kidding me? You look up and there's just a face looking at you?
Ooh.
Nope.
This one is called Something Was Terrorizing My Town.
And it is old. It's old. It is long as shit.
It's a long story. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll just write it all in chronological order from when I heard other people's stories and then experienced whatever it was for myself. To preface this, I should mention that all of this took place back home on my reservation. I'm Algonquin First Nation from Canada. Another thing I should mention is that on the res, traditional beliefs and legends of the paranormal are still a big part of our community. The attitude of most people towards the paranormal is one of assurance. To us, the paranormal is a regular part of life. We believe in a spirit world, and we believe that sometimes these beings can cross over into our world and maybe even live among us. When I tell paranormal stories to my non-native friends, they're always in such disbelief that things like this have actually happened and how casually I talk about it. But it's only because it's been so normalized for me. Where they have absolutely no paranormal experiences, I have a bunch, and most everyone I know on the res has even more than I do. I don't really care to explain it. Maybe we're all crazy from drinking our toxic tap water. Lol. I don't know. Anyways, here's the story. This all happened in the fall of 2011, when I was 16 years old. I was living in a nearby city with my mom so that I could get a better education than the one I could get back from home. But we'd go back every single weekend to see my dad and little brother. One Friday, during the drive back home, I got a text from a friend of mine. She told me about a party that was happening that night and asked me when I'd be home so they could pick me up. I gave her a time, and that was that. We get home, and as soon as we stepped inside the house, we see my dad and my cousin sitting at the kitchen table drinking some beers. Yeah. They're both cops on the res, so usually beers with his partner on a Friday evening means that they've had a particularly tough week at work. Typically, the toughest cases to deal with are child abuse and molestation. So, a part of me felt sad immediately that something that bad had happened. They both looked tired and drained, but they're happy to see us. We say our greetings, catch up a little, and my dad asks me if I have any plans.
Yo, you got any plans? You want to drink a beer with me?
Here's a beer.
Put some chest on your hair.
I tell him about the party and where it'll be, and he and our cousin share a weird look. Why are you guys making that face? Did something happen? I ask. I don't know if we should tell her, my cousin said, looking at my dad.
Such a typical, egging on. Oh, I don't think they should know.
Don't do.
I don't think we can tell them. I don't think they're ready yet.
He laughed, and they decided that I should probably know what's been going on since I'd be going to a cottage pretty deep in the woods later that evening. They started with the first strange call they got on Monday night. An older woman called saying that people were outside her house knocking on all of her windows. What the fuck, right? That's creepy.
Are you kidding me?
She said
simultaneously, dung, 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 dung.
She said she couldn't see anybody, but there must have been at least 3 people judging by all the different locations of the knocking.
Nope. That's freaky. That's when
creepy
you
as
get
hell.
out of the house.
They arrived at the woman's home, inspected all around the house, even checked the woods, but nothing came up. They called her. They tell her that it's probably just some teenagers playing tricks on her and that there isn't much else they can do besides patrol around the area in case they come back. On Wednesday night, the same woman called again with the same problem. It had rained that day and there was mud all around this woman's home, so they figured that at the very least they'd find footprints, but they couldn't find a thing. This is when they started feeling like something was off, because one of the windows where the woman was adamant about there being knocking was completely impossible to get to without stepping through this huge mud puddle. This is when they started to think that the woman was lying, but they told her the same thing they told her a few nights prior. It's a good setup. I like this. By Thursday night, everyone on the res had been talking about these strange experiences. It turns out this woman was not the only one experiencing the knocking. She was just the only one who called the police.
That's weird to me. Like, everyone's hearing this knocking on the window, and everyone's like, I don't know, must be some, I don't know, I'm going to bed.
One guy just got rid of his windows.
I just took the windows out of the pane, and I was fine. Problem solved. Just the damn aliens, man.
Yeah, goddamn aliens.
Floating around. Doom, 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 doom.
Butt probes. I mean, all of this was taking place on the res, so it wasn't long before people were linking it to supernatural cases. My dad was still sure it was just a group of teens pranking people, but then they got another call from the same woman for the same reason.
And then all the teenagers started calling.
Yeah,
my windows are being knocked on.
Oh my God, some old lady's knocking on her door. They rushed over and were met with the same situation, except this time the neighbors walked over looking pale as a ghost. He says, "Is this about knocking?" They notice he's a little shaky. Yeah, did you see something?" They ask him. The man nodded and said, "You guys are going to think I'm crazy, but yeah." And he goes on to explain what he saw. He said that he stepped outside for a cigarette on his porch when he heard a knocking. He looked around to see where it was coming from, and when he looked to his neighbor's house, he saw it. There was a black figure standing outside the woman's window, the same one with the mud puddle I mentioned, looking into her home.
That's freaky.
Yeah.
Something's going on in this little res.
He said it looked humanoid in stature, but completely made out of shadow. You could tell it was something solid-ish, but you couldn't make out any features on it. He stared at it, completely in shock, and watched the thing as it knocked a couple of times and then darted around the house, knocking on every single window. He said it moved too fast to be a human. It was practically a blur. It went around the house a few times, then ran across the road into the tree line behind one tree in particular. The man was frozen, but he couldn't look away. It then leaned out from behind the tree, staring directly at him with yellow eyes that reflected the light similarly to a cat's. And then it smiled, showing its small but numerous pointed and sharp teeth. I almost shit my pants. He had attempted to joke, but his voice was still shaking.
I would have shit my pants.
I would have taken a shit.
Just pull down your pants and shit on the floor. Oh, that's so scary.
Fast forward to Friday, stories are being exchanged all over the res about other sightings and experiences people were having.
Did you see that guy just pull down his pants and shit?
He just shit.
He just shit all over. He looked like he was scared. He just shit everywhere. That's the only story that's spreading.
I'm really uncomfortable.
He's like shit his pants, and then he just tried to wipe with the leaf, and it didn't work.
On top of multiple people, on top of multiple people experiencing the knocking, there were also quite a few sightings with everyone describing the creature in the same way. One woman was bringing her trash bin to the road when she thought she saw someone in her peripheral vision standing near the trees. She walked back up the driveway and into her home, feeling like she was being watched. Right before she was about to open her door to go back inside her home, she looked back and saw two reflective yellow eyes watching her from the trees. She said it was about 5 feet above the ground. Another couple was driving at night and they saw a humanoid figure standing in the middle of the road. As they got closer and it turned around to face them, that's when they saw the reflective yellow eyes and the sharp, pointed teeth as it smiled at them. They stopped the car, too afraid to go closer to it, until they decided to just drive past it. Being on a narrow road, they drove past it with the figure being only a few feet from the window, staring at them the whole time. "You sure you still want to go to the party?" my dad asks. But my friends were already pulling into the driveway. I gave my family hugs and kisses goodbye, and they told me to be careful, but I felt fine. A common belief among Native American people is that negative energy attracts negative energy. Therefore, an evil spirit will be drawn to people with unresolved issues, traumas, and sinners, I suppose. If you're someone who is spiritual, self-aware, and basically a good person, that in itself will be protective. I get to the party within 20 minutes. The conversation shifts towards the paranormal experiences people have been having.
He walks in, everyone's like, guys, the window knocker.
I saw a guy take a shit. Literally.
This guy just literally took a shit
He pulled off his pants and pooped down his porch and then went back inside.
It's the scariest thing that's ever happened in this town.
I don't know. I'm really curious about what everyone has to say because they have stories that I haven't heard yet. But my friend, us being 16 and all, couldn't hold her alcohol very well and was crying about how she wishes she was closer with her brother. The narrator is annoyed.
You know it's a good story when the narrator can't even narrate without getting annoyed.
I was trying to make her feel better while listening to everyone's stories. One of the people at the party was related to the neighbor of the woman who was calling the police. The experience really shook him up, and my friend was just explaining everything that he was doing later on. For one, he smudged his entire home, which is something our people do when we're looking for extra protection against paranormal entities. He also went to visit multiple elders around the community, asking for advice and any information they had on similar happenings. What we do know about paranormal experiences on the res is that they don't happen as often as they used to. If you talk to one of our elders, they have endless stories and even more advice to give about how to protect yourself compared to now. One of the explanations that was given to this guy about the shadow thing was that it was evidence that someone was doing an unauthorized shaking tent ceremony. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up, but it is basically, and I'm generalizing, like a Ouija board session that takes place inside a tent of some sort. People stand around the tent while the medicine man or medicine woman goes inside and asks the questions. The tent begins to shake, and you can hear the voices of spirits coming through. I've never personally been to one because we haven't had a good enough reason to make one, but typically our ancestors used shaking tent ceremonies when they were starving in the dead of winter and needed some direction on where their nearest food source was. My mom's been to one, and her story is absolutely crazy. She described multiple voices of men and women only speaking the native tongue, and they were upset that the people were doing a shaking tent ceremony when they weren't on the verge of death. The people there had to explain that they were only doing the ceremony to prove that it was real, as we had been losing our culture as a result of residential schools. But the spirits were angry about this, saying that the bridge between two worlds should never be opened unless absolutely necessary, because you don't know who you are communicating with. It could be with evil spirits, and it could be with good ones. It could be with ancestors, but you never know. Anyways, the elders told him that the spirit crossed over into our world because of the shaking tent ceremony. Someone on the reservation has been doing them without consultation of the elders. So we started thinking about who would do that without proper guidance and without good enough reason to do so. Then two of the drunkest dudes at this point start saying shit like, I'm not scared. That thing could show up right now and it couldn't do shit. Basically egging it on.
This is that point in the horror movie when it busts through the window and rips his throat out.
All of us were looking at each other like, why the fuck would you disrespect an evil spirit? That's exactly how you attract it to you. And that's when I decided to leave the sunshine room.
Sunshine room?
Whoa.
Everyone has a sunshine room.
It got weird.
What are you talking about,
The
Cletus?
sun room where everyone was hanging out.
I like the sunshine room. I want to build a sunshine room.
want
Just
a
take the roof
sunshine
off
room.
the house.
God.
It's a sunshine room during the day and a moonshine room during the night.
I went to the living room to console my drunk, crying friend. She's still crying. When I noticed that the rocking chair outside the porch was going back and forth, I looked away immediately, refusing to make direct eye contact, but I did look at it from my peripheral vision. Here's a diagram of the cottage.
Probably just skip that part, right?
So you see a rocking chair, porch, living room, me, kitchen. I don't think this came through correctly for them, but that's okay.
Yeah, probably not. But this calls for a good another beer. So let's crack open the next beer.
We're almost done here. We're almost done. We're about halfway. No, we're like 2/3 of the way done.
Yeah. But this beer is the one I brought. It's Wicked Sea Party Hazy Pale Ale from a small batch beer from TF Brewing. And it's got a bunch of lobsters on the front of it. And I handed the can to Cleet, and he's like, "That looks disgusting."
Yeah, it just has a bunch of lobster on like a beer
It's
can.
so good.
Like, I just don't like the idea of fish flavored beer.
You know what's funny, though? Do you know Cutthroat Pale Ale?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The red can with the big fish on it?
I love Cutthroat. It's good.
Yeah. So the first time I had Cutthroat, I legitimately was like not a fan because I kept imagining it tasting like fish just because it had a fish on it. Like I don't know. It was weird.
It has a weird aftertaste, though.
It's good, though.
There's something about it that...
Because they brew it with lobster butt. They brew it with lobsters.
They do.
Not really. It's good, though. I like it.
I'd be shocked. Anyways, back to the story. Anyways, I'm inside the cottage, and I keep seeing this rocking chair going back and forth and back and forth. But another thing we're raised to do in our culture is to ignore paranormal experiences. Spirits feed on the energy that people put towards them. So if you freak out, if you get angry, if you yell at it, or start crying, that's exactly what it wants. And it will stick around once it gets a reaction. It thrives on energy of any kind. So while I knew something fucked up was happening on the rocking chair...
Phrasing.
I wasn't about to pay attention.
Something fucked up is happening on that rocking chair.
I've never heard that in a sentence before.
Yeah, that's a first. When the trailers are rocking, don't come and knock.
Is going on?
What happens if the rocking chair's rocking? Turn around.
5 minutes or so goes by, and I'm still seeing it move in the corner of my eye. Someone's getting laid.
They're really rocking that chair.
That's when my friend screams.
Oh, yeah!
And she runs to the other side of the sunroom. My other friend sprints to where the girl was sitting and busts through the French doors onto the balcony. All of this happens in a split second, but I immediately go to the patio and ask what's going on. Girl 1 is crying on the couch with her friends all around her.
Still.
She claims to have seen the spirit, which we later nicknamed Kukoji, Algonquin word for monster. She said she was listening to the boys talk about when she saw boy 2's face as he was looking out on the balcony behind her. She turned around to see what he was looking at, and directly on the other side of the window was the shadow spirit sitting on the rocking chair, smiling at her.
It's the smile.
Literally 3 feet from her. That's when boy 2 sprints towards it and bursts through the French doors.
Just imagine, like...
He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, no,
He's sticking to his words.
Like a big party. Everyone's drunk. She's just out there crying. Someone sees this, like, Wendigo creature just rocking, smiling. She's still crying. Big tough boy bursts through the door like, I'm gonna beat your ass.
He pulled down his pants and said, I'm a monster predator.
Way out in left field. Is he gonna fuck this Wendigoon?
Wendigoon.
It's a Wendigoon, right?
Wendigo?
Wendigo. That's amazing. I was like, why are you so... Okay, Wendigo.
I'm a monster predator.
Here's the Washington Post, bitch.
That was funny. I left that in there, too.
That was so good. I know. It's hilarious.
I walk outside to find boy 2, and he's on the lawn staring into the woods. I call his name, and he looks up at me. All he says is, get everyone inside. And the tone of his voice just makes me automatically obey. I get all the drunk teenagers inside the cottage. This is when the phrase, come at me, bro, was just gaining popularity. So you could imagine the drunk kids yelling that in the woods.
Come at me, bro!
It was terrible.
A bunch of drunk people screaming at the woods.
I eventually get everyone inside, and girl 1 isn't crying anymore, but she is visibly shaken from the experience. Boy 2 comes back inside and tells everyone to clean up and that we should leave as soon as possible.
There's always the buzzkill. I need everyone here to clean up. Go home.
Everyone has trash bags and are cleaning away all their beer bottles and cans away.
Especially you, monster predator. Put it away. Go home.
Everyone goes into the cottage, and it's only me and Boy 2 in the sunroom now. I look to him for answers, and all he says is, "It's outside." I nod and start cleaning faster. The sooner we're out of here, the sooner we're away from the thing. As we're cleaning in the sunroom, we hear a knocking on the window in multiple places. The entire sunroom is made of glass, but it's dark out, so you can't even see outside. I immediately look at Boy 2 and he just says, "Ignore it." Within 2 seconds, someone comes running out of the bathroom and says, "I'll fucking kill whoever's outside knocking on the bathroom window."
Damn.
But it's like, whoa,
I just wanted to take a shit.
that escalated quickly. Dude. Like, I'm gonna kill him. But everyone's inside and accounted for. Someone else comes running out of the bedroom saying that there was a knocking on the window in there as well. Now everyone's freaking out, and me, Boy 2, and our one other friend are the only sober ones to calm everyone down.
I wonder how Boy 2 and the other friend feels about reading the story. Like me, Boy 2, and the other friend.
Yeah.
He's like, well, who's the other friend?
He doesn't
Who's
get
Boy
a gender
2?
or anything.
I know, it's just the other friend. Can you imagine like reading this being like, who's the other friend? Like,
Yeah,
you don't
dude,
get any other
she gave him the
descriptor
cold shoulder.
other than the other friend.
He's
That's
probably ugly.
That's friend zone. That's a permanent friend zone.
Yeah.
He's like, at least Boy 1 and Boy 2, maybe. Then you got Girl 1, Boy 2, and then the other friend.
The other.
We got the other friend. He of whom we do not speak. And then, as you so delicately put it, the monster predator with his snake dong.
I'm gonna bang you.
Wendigoon. How the fuck did I get put into this shit?
Okay, anyways. We get the place clean and get outside to the cars immediately. Everyone's getting into their trucks, and I'm standing with Boy 2. He's relaxed, but then all of a sudden looks behind me and shoves me inside his truck.
Uh-oh.
We peel out of the driveway and drop everyone off. A few days later, I end up hanging out with Boy 2, and he tells me the story from his perspective. He said that when the boys started talking shit about the spirit, it appeared on the rocking chair behind Girl 1. He said he made eye contact with it and couldn't look away. They were staring each other down, and that's when Girl 1 saw Boy 2's expression. He said it was instinct to defend the people he was with and ran towards it.
I can't keep all these characters straight. We talking about Boy 1, Boy 2, Girl 1, Girl 2,
And
the other friend, Monster Predator. Who are we talking about?
He said that the feeling he was getting from the Koji was almost like he was daring him to do something. He said the second he got up, the Koji stood and ran into the woods, disappearing from the patio in a blur. Boy 2 ran off the porch and was looking around the lawn when he saw it standing at the tree line, looking right at him with a smile on its face. He said the whole time it felt like it was mocking him. I called Boy 2's name and it disappeared. He didn't see it again until everyone was getting into the trucks, which explains why he suddenly pushed me inside. He said that it was standing on the far end of the truck, super close to us. Later that night, when he dropped everyone off, they realized that they never locked the door, so he went back to the cottage, but his friend, whose cottage it was too scared to go in. Boy 2 goes in by himself, but the second he opens the door, he sees the thing standing inside the living room. He locks the door as quickly as he can, and they peel out of the driveway. So yeah, sightings continue for a few days after that. We definitely weren't the only people on the res to have experiences like this, and then it all stopped all of a sudden. It was the talk of the res. Everyone was curious about what happened to it, would it come back, what was it, etc.
All the teenagers went to college.
But word ended up getting around that there were sightings north of our community. People in the town just north of us were having sightings. Then other reservations were having sightings as well. It was like it was traveling north, the way the stories were going. Anyways, it's 2018 now, and no one else on my reservation has had any sightings of this particular thing. But yeah, that's my story.
That was crazy. All right, my turn. So this story is called It Was Neither Fully Human Nor Fully Animal.
It's some type of unicorn man.
In July...
It's like a horse, but with a penis on his head.
The fuck? Instead of a unicorn, it's a penicorn.
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 Goddamn penicorn. Get out of here, you pervert.
That's a dong on your
You
forehead.
goddamn brony pervert.
Just a big fat guy in a brony costume upside down. Put your dick away! In July 2004, near Gallup, New Mexico, I had my first and only encounter with a skinwalker. Man, I kind of want an encounter with a skinwalker.
Really?
Just one. Do you not? Like if you could go somewhere like Skinwalker Ranch and actually have a chance to see a skinwalker, would you do it?
If I had a guaranteed survival rate, sure.
You have to survive. But what's the fun in that? The chance that you could die is all the fun.
Okay, man. How
Just
about
kidding.
you go start climbing on skyscrapers like those weird YouTubers?
No thanks, I'm good. I was moving and had just completed the cleaning and was with my 10-year-old son. We had called it a night and were headed to our new place. As we walked out the front door, I saw a figure move from behind my neighbor's car to a nearby tree that stood between our apartments. It didn't have any red glowing eyes, snarling teeth, or a rotten smell. It did move quickly, but not quick enough to avoid the light from a nearby light post and the porch lights. It didn't look at me or come toward me. It moved as if trying to avoid being seen. I was within 15 feet of it, but I did not look back to fully inspect it. What I saw was a wolf-like animal that sort of resembled the beast in Beauty and the Beast, just not cartoonish. It had brown fur that completely covered it. It wasn't a pelt, it was a very large wolf. It didn't have any human traits except that it walked on its hind legs. It cowered behind the tree as we got into our vehicle. When we got in, I asked my son, "Did you see that?" Thankfully, he hadn't. Childhood ruined.
Huh. Whew. Its transmission fluid is leaking out of that man over there. It was blood.
My brother-in-law insists that it wasn't a skinwalker because I would never have seen it. To this day, I can picture what it looked like, know they exist, and I pray that I never encounter one again. Well, I like this one. It's called The Grove. This did not happen to me, except a very close friend of mine. I've heard a lot about coyotes and skinwalkers. It's not really the same thing. Had a lot of weird experiences or two with coyotes. Creepiest was waking up to my sleeping bag being surrounded in paw prints without ever hearing them during the night.
What the? That's creepy as hell.
Yeah, it is nuts. But never anything paranormal, so to speak. Patrick's story, however, kept me from going back to a favorite backcountry secret stash. He was leaving the area one morning, had been camping there a couple of days, and said there was a coyote that always seemed to be close by, like in his peripheral vision, but never overt. He loaded up his truck, started to drive down the wash out to the fire road. At the end of the wash, he could see the coyote following him. When he pulled onto the road, it was running next to him. Now he was freaked out, so he sped up. He said he was going 35 or so, and it was running along beside him. Definitely not possible. When he looked back, the coyote was running on two legs and was wearing what Patrick said looked like buckskin pants.
Oh, yeah.
A coyote in pants.
I've seen everything.
Literally. An instant later, it was a person wearing a coyote fur, keeping pace with his truck. When he looked again, it was gone. We never went back to the Grove after that. It's either a coyote wearing pants or a man wearing a coyote.
That's kind of creepy either way, isn't it?
It was like it knew, we knew what it really was.
It was an emu.
He knew, I knew, that you knew, that we knew,
was
that
an
he
emu.
knew, that I knew it was an emu.
Yeah, I got it.
I decided to join my bestie Karen for a 3-day stay at her grandmother's place on the res.
I like Karen, but she likes to make a scene in public places.
We stopped at the grocery store and she immediately demanded to see the manager. Her grandmother lives near a place called Tuba City, Arizona. Tuba City.
I'm a tuba.
Bunch of, like everyone lives in a big tuba.
I'm a tuba.
In the middle of nowhere, but surrounded by rural homes. We go to college together and I was kind of interested to know about Navajo tradition. The first day we stayed, it was pretty chill. Nothing out of the ordinary, but then her grandma, not that old, around 67, said that a stray dog came out of nowhere and would not leave. To me, it did act kind of strange and ugly looking. Black, shaggy coat, looked like a mix between a German Shepherd and a lab. That night, we're watching a movie in the living room. It had big windows that looked out into the front where the cars were parked. Nothing fancy. With the curtains wide open. Grandma was in the kitchen cooking dinner and we were watching a movie. Next to the window is a medium bookshelf and where DVDs are kept. What's a DVD?
Never heard of it. Maybe Mel knows.
You know what's crazy? Like, we're like the last generation who ever used like VHS.
Yeah, I mean, cassette tapes. I remember those. We had
That's a VHS.
cassette tape.
Oh, like the 8-track?
Yeah.
Yeah.
8-track.
Like, we're like the
I
last.
remember using that. I had a Walkman with one of those.
Yeah. The disc player.
Yep.
But like, I think we're the last ones to ever use a VHS.
I
Because
mean,
then it went DVD, then it went Blu-ray, then it's like 4K, now it's all streaming.
yeah, I mean, there was some people after us, but I get it. I mean, you're younger than me, to a degree.
To a degree. You're what, 34?
Yeah.
Yeah, 32. Karen went to put back a DVD we had just watched, but she freaked out because the stray black dog was staring at us through the window, standing on top of the wood box outside. Not something normal dogs do from my point of view, or hers. Usually my dog, which is a house dog, scratches the door to be let in. Res dogs aren't house dogs, and dogs inside houses are frowned upon in Navajo tradition, meant to protect the house and the owner. The other dogs seemed to stay away from it. Karen opened the door and yelled at it to get off the box. It ran off behind the shed. We went to Tuba City to get some groceries and came back to the house. The dog was nowhere to be seen. Nothing unusual. Grandma went to visit some people, so it was just Karen and I. Around 5 o'clock, we heard someone trying to open the door. Both of us looked out since there had been no car heard and no dogs barking. Looking out the living room window to the door, and there was the dog trying to open the door with its paws. 2 paws wrapped around the brass doorknob, standing on its hind legs. It's hard to open a door with paws. I thought that was weird, but wasn't really freaked out. Karen was. She opened the door and chased it off. Grandma came back later and Karen told her Grandma didn't like what she heard. She got ready to sleep. We slept in the spare bedroom since it had 2 beds. One window with curtains opened a little. We turned off the light, but there was a sound coming from on top of the roof. Fucking dog on the roof. Pitter-patter footsteps and a scratching sound and panting. It then sounded like it jumped off onto the large plastic water barrel they had. At first we heard what sounded like barking, but as it grew louder, the other dogs seemed to be barking at something also. But all of a sudden, something was running around the house barking, and it was no dog. Nope, it was not. This barking sounded human. A deep male voice barking like it knew that we knew it wasn't a dog. It was like, roar!
I know,
Row!
you know that I know.
Row!
That you know.
I know that you know that I know that I'm no dog. Woof! Woof, woof!
This story
Ruff.
has me at a end.
Ruff!
My
Arf,
logical
arf,
end.
arf. You interrupted my barking. Go ahead. What were you going to say? You interrupted my
I
barking.
don't fucking know, man. Just fucking
You said it sounded like
finish,
what?
Finish the fucking story, Britton.
Sounding more like a boss than ever. I sat there and watched you read 19 paragraphs.
I'm fucking sick of this story. This is barking. I'm fucking done.
It's a man running around barking. What's not scary about that? If your neighbor started running around barking around your
grab
house,
my gun.
Yeah, I know you would.
I'm gonna have to put you down.
You'd shit your
motherfucker.
pants. I'm gonna have to put you down now.
I'm sorry, old Yeller. This
don't
is
make
so
this-
sad.
You weed whack his
Andy is
corpse.
so sad.
Okay, exactly like that. Adding the W's, R's, and A's. Then panting again by the window. We started freaking out. So some guy's just walking around pretending to be a dog. Karen decided to, in my opinion, was stupid, open the curtains to look out. There was the stray dog on its hind legs looking into our bedroom, but this time it stunk, and what I thought were 2 black holes in the neck. Another pair of eyes twinkled. Think of those ugly, glossy spider eyes staring at you. And the paws were deformed-looking hands with overgrown, somewhat thick and sharp fingernails. Again, both of us screaming and shutting the curtains closed. Grandma came running through the door and seeing it. Grandma just has to keep coming to save the fucking day, man. Let
Rough,
Grandma
rough,
sleep.
motherfucker.
First thing she did was grab ashes from the fireplace, load 3 shells into the shotgun from under her bed, bless herself in Navajo, and went outside to shoot it.
Damn, I like her.
Yelling in Navajo about how the thing wasn't welcomed there and to get the hell out of there.
She probably said, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Them both being traditional, the next day they called a medicine man to come over, put cedar in. He prayed over everyone with cedar smoke and an eagle feather, blessing the place. Made us eat bitter herbs called eagle's gull or something, and gave me an arrowhead. Apparently I needed to carry one for protection and a little pouch called corn pollen. Seems to work pretty well.
The old cornhole.
She say the medicine man said that the dog was a skinwalker, the body of a stray dog, made an illusion so we wouldn't know it was a real dog. He also said that Yoshis tend to harm people by using some sort of human bone straw to spit at someone. Think spitballs, only deadlier, and get human bones into them. Doctors can't detect it, but the medicine man that day pulled a piece of human skull out of Grandma's right shoulder. Pretty big, about 2 inches long and 1 centimeter thick. It was real because we watched him pull it out of her. That was intense. All right, that's going to wrap us up. Thank you very much for the suggestion on Skinwalkers and Wendigo and Navajo stories. That was actually really good to research.
I enjoyed the episode. It was good.
It was really good. Thank you, as always, to our paid supporters of the show, Claytor, Lord of Soup, Curtis and Lara, Jackson, Mothman, Laura, Devin, Conklin family, and Lou. Your continued support is tremendous. We're getting really close to having our video on the show. I know we keep saying that. We're just trying to find the camera that we want. And very soon, we're going to get that up so you can see our ugly faces as we prepare also to go to the Clown Motel after we get how many more subscribers?
We need 500 subs on YouTube. We're only 68 away. So if you're listening to us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.